What do you need to know about home inspections? Listen up to the president of the real estate inspection company, Philippe Heller.
He's back. Philippe Heller is here. What's up, my man?
How's it going? How you doing? Excellent.
All right, great to have you here today. I'm so shocked we haven't talked about this yet because just burning topic out there. In San Diego, most homes are older. Mm-hmm. There's very little new construction. Most homes have something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. It might be small, it might be large. Your job and your inspector's jobs, you guys inspect more homes than any other company in San Diego, is to go point out what those things are. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people don't quite understand, okay, this is what an inspector looks at.
Right.
It's not everything.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So tell, first of all, why this is so important,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Unfortunately, there's some great agents out there. Mm-hmm. There's some agents that aren't so great out there. And the big conflict of interest in the real estate industry is that if an agent sells you a home, mm-hmm. they make a boatload of money. If they don't sell you a home, they make zero.
Right.
So there's a big conflict there. So you'll constantly see agents kind of saying, "Oh, that's no big deal. Oh, you don't have air conditioning? It never gets hot over here." You see them saying things like that all the time mm-hmm. because of that huge conflict. And when it comes to inspections, this is the moment. Now you're in contract.
Yes.
You need to find out whether you want to go through with this or not.
You're getting married to this house.
You are marrying this house. You're probably putting your life savings into this house. Mm-hmm. You need to know what's going on. So tell me, first of all, what do we get when someone gets an inspection to buy a home?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of times people who enter this for the first time are well aware that they have to get pre-approved for a loan, and they have to spend a lot of time with an agent. They finally find a place. But they don't really think about the home inspection until the last minute. It's kind of thrust upon them, and it's like, oh, we need to get a home inspection. And they go, okay, well, let's get a home inspection, and they just want to check it off their list. There's a lot to it, and I want to caution people to get educated about what the scope of a home inspection is. It does have limits, and home inspections have grown in their complexity and their depth over the years. But it still may not be the end-all, be-all. There may be other inspections that you need, sometimes based on the inspection report itself, that you need to consider.
Okay, so within the inspection report, because you guys aren't out there to fix anything.
No.
You're literally just going there to point out what the problems are or might be.
Correct.
But not even all of them. You're not necessarily testing every single thing. The
mm-hmm.
standard inspection excludes certain things that people might want to have checked out, right?
Correct. Now, over the years, it's funny you mention this because recently I had an opportunity. We inspected a house that I personally had inspected, I think, 7 years ago. And we compared the report from 7 years ago to today. And the scope of the inspection has grown enormously. The tools, the technology we use, much better today. So it's kind of, eye-opening to see how far the industry has come just in the last, 7 years. What you said before about homes in San Diego, yeah, they're older by our California standards. Back east, of course, they inspect homes that are sometimes 200 years old.
That's true.
So we're a little bit lucky, and also because of our weather, I think there's a lot more deferred maintenance. We just don't expect problems to persist here. We don't paint as often. In the last rains, we found that roofs are often neglected. So our job is to go out and, you're right, look at everything, bring it to the attention of the buyer, say, these things are at or near the end of their life, these are functioning well. Perhaps get a furnace guy out here because this furnace is 35 years old and there's rust or whatever it is, and it makes the buyer aware of where dollars may need to be spent either immediately or in the near future.
Okay, which is super crucial because I think most people buying a home are not prepared, especially when you buy an older home, mm-hmm. for all the things that might need to be done.
Yes.
Especially when you're buying that house that's like 30, 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's right where everything kind of needs to be redone.
Yes.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that stuff might be holding up well.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. But it might be near the end. So if you plan on owning this place 10, 15 years, hey, at some point you're going to need to do this, you're going to need to do this, you're going to need to do this. And that's why having a good inspection done is important. But it doesn't cover everything. So what are some of the things that I'm not going to get? If I'm just going and buying a house, getting a standard inspection, what's required, what am I not going to find out about?
Well, for example, home inspectors do not lift any flooring material. We don't pull back carpets. We don't obviously lift any wood flooring. We don't move personal items like furnishings or armoires or bed headboards. And if there's anything that is concealed, a home inspector is not going to be able to find it. What does that mean? There may be some slight cracks in a slab, which is very common in San Diego, and in any piece of concrete, you're going to see some level of cracking. Home inspector isn't always going to be able to determine that. Unless there's a crack around the perimeter of the house, we're not going to see it. Some home inspectors don't inspect washers and dryers or refrigerators because those things don't always convey with the house. They don't transfer over to the buyer. We've begun to inspect those things on all inspections where those items do convey. So, that's a difference. Ask the home inspector that you're going to hire what the scope of his inspection includes and excludes, very importantly. Home inspectors don't lift tiles, so they have to make educated guesses about the roof and its integrity. Same thing with decking. We're not doing anything destructive, so we're not going to cut holes in the ceiling to see if some deck is leaking or not. So we have to look at evidence. So there's some things that we have to look at very objectively from the surface and look for evidence. But keep in mind that a home inspector doesn't have x-ray vision, even with the thermal camera. We don't have that luxury of seeing inside walls or inside ceilings.
And in some cases, there are additional services that you could potentially get. So you could say, hey, what do you not cover? In other words, what are you excluding in this standard inspection?
Right.
And then sort of look at what that list might be and go, you know what, we really want to check out that thing. We want you to check that too.
Very important. Geological concerns. We're not geologists. We're not engineers of any kind. If you're buying a house on a hill, on the slope, San Diego has a lot of earth movement a lot of times because there's long periods of time between drought and heavy rain, clay soils, sandy soils, whatever, and sometimes there are problems with buying a home on a hillside. If you're concerned about that, you may want to hire a geological engineer to check the hillside because that's outside the scope. Some other things that we don't do, again, we're not arborists. We've talked about this before in other shows. There's some things about trees or parts of the property that are not actually included in the footprint of the home that we're not going to look at, and retaining walls sometimes on the property that you may want to have inspected additionally.
Yeah. What about like a well?
Wells are also excluded. That's another great one. Septic systems and wells are also outside the scope. So other than, from the home inspector's point of view, we turn on the water and make sure it's flowing and check the electrical connections there, but we're not doing a test for water quality, flow rate, the integrity of the pump, anything like that. So you will need to hire, if you're buying out in the country or any place with a well, you'll have to hire a company that does well testing. And likewise, if you're buying a house that is on a septic system, that will have to be inspected separately as well, where they open up your septic tank, see if it's cracked, how well, if it's full and needs to be pumped out, and checks that. That's outside the scope of a home inspection.
So for the most part, what you're getting is sort of a triage analysis of what's going on, because you may, as an inspector, you may go, okay, well, it looks like the water pressure from your well is not so great. That might be what an inspector might tell you, because you're going to turn the water on.
Yes.
It may need to be looked at. But you're not going to tell them exactly what the problem is. They're going to need to, go and get someone else to do a thorough inspection of that well or that septic system to figure out what's going on, or those tiles or that roof. So I think that's important for people to know, because I think most people believe, hey, I'm getting an inspection of the house. They're coming in with white gloves. They're looking at every inch of this place, and if they say it's okay, then everything must be okay.
Right. So make sure you understand the limitations of it as a buyer. And for agents, I've been in this business a long time, and I've seen a lot of good agents who get wrapped up in a lawsuit. And this almost always comes from misunderstandings about what is working well and what isn't. And a buyer moves in and they find that there's a problem. And if it can't be resolved in an amicable way, sometimes a lawsuit occurs and everybody gets dragged into it. And really, I want to caution agents against overlooking or trying to smooth over any issue that a home inspector may bring up, like an aged roof or an aged water heater. Don't rely on a home warranty to cover it. Don't try and smooth it over just in order to close the deal. You really want to have everything looked at, because if a buyer finds a problem afterwards and you as the agent try to smooth it over and convince them that it's not a big deal, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, you could get in big trouble.
Yes.
You could tap your insurance for sure, or beyond, depending upon your coverage.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens all the time, because it's, I understand. You're right in the heat of the moment. You go, oh, it'll probably be fine, or, whatever. But someone who's buying that place, it's a big deal for them. And if they have to come in and drop, $20,000 out of their pocket within the first year or two, I think most people expect at least the first couple years to be smooth, right? So that's usually when the problems happen, right? Is when someone experiences something in the first year or two, and they go, "Man, what the heck?"
Exactly.
We had an agent, we had an inspection. What the heck?
And one of the big ones also that is, it kind of falls in between, is a rodent infestation. A pest inspection is not an inspection that will reveal rodents. They're there to look for wood-destroying organisms, which is mildew and fungus and termites, of course. A lot of pest inspectors will not comment on rodents. So when you're getting a pest inspection, see whether or not that included an inspection for pests. Same thing with home inspectors. We're not licensed pest inspectors. Many home inspectors will not comment on a rodent infestation. And they're all over San Diego. I don't care if you live downtown or in the backcountry, it's a big deal. So that's another thing where you want to find out and may require an additional inspection just to deal with rodents.
Philippe Heller from the Real Estate Inspection Company, thank you so much for coming in today. Making us smarter than everyone else. That's what we do on the show right here. Stick around. More of it coming at you commercial free.